Yeah, well, we're okay. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but
Yeah.
anyway, yeah.
But you are here now again.
Yes. All right. Actually, we had a couple of technical issues there, and before we could even go live on YouTube, so we can actually, luckily in some ways, that we had a bit of delay, so we can actually start over in some ways. So again, we're with Dawn Foster, who is the marketing and brand nerd, and who helps companies large and small with their marketing initiatives, and we're talking about branding 101 for solopreneurs. And Dawn, let's just go back again and define brand for our audience now that we're live on the internet. Let's go back and define brand again.
Sure. Brand is the personality of your business. I always try to explain branding and marketing as two separate things. Branding is going to be the personality of your business, what people can come to expect from it. And then marketing is really the networking of said business.
Yeah, and this is where I think what happens with a lot of solopreneurs, and it's very understandable, is like you have your idea for your business or whatever you're doing, and you get into it, and you get into it, but you kind of dive into the operational side of things, and you often forget about the branding side, because I think sometimes people think, okay, I've started my business. Well, I got my logo, I got my website up, I kind of got my visuals, I'm all good to go. That's my branding taken care of. But that's only a very small part, right?
Such a small piece of the puzzle. A brand is really something you need to continuously revisit, keep top of mind, put your time and energy into. It's not just something that you can create at the beginning when you're first starting your business and then put it on a shelf. Think of it this way. How many companies or businesses have you interacted with and you've gone to their website and it feels dated, or their visuals don't match what we are currently experiencing as consumers? Those are some indicators that people have not nurtured their brand and given it the attention that it deserves.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fantastic point there, because I do think sometimes, like, as we said, people get their brand and all that done at the beginning, but then when they start to actually operate, as you said, I mean, maybe it's a mismatch. Maybe they have, maybe the brand and the reality don't match together, or as you say, it's just left sitting there as well. I kind of have that, and it's there, and that's my brand. But your brand is the experience that people have when they interact with you. And I think that's the piece that sometimes people disconnect, right? They don't realize that brand is everything you do.
You make a really good point that brand is part of the business that your consumers are going to connect with. Sure, you have a product, but your brand is going to help people decide to choose you over some of your competitors. That's where a brand's really going to come in and do its job. The way we live today, people want something to connect to, something that is going to help trigger whatever that emotion may be. And your brand showing up, whether it's your visuals or the language that you're using, that's going to help make that connection, in addition to helping you sell whatever your product or service is.
Yeah, and I think then the onus is then on the solopreneur to always be asking themselves, like, is everything I'm doing, is this supportive of my overall brand, the way I interact, the way I message, the service I give, the follow-up I give, is this all supportive of the overall brand that I'm trying to create? So Dawn, there's a lot of often when you start a business, you think nowadays, okay, marketing, oh, there's so many things I need to be on, like Facebook, Instagram, I need to have Twitter. I mean, I need to have all these things. And sometimes I think people get like paralyzed by the amount of choices and the things that they could be doing. So what are some of the ways that you help people actually drill down and focus on where they should start with their marketing, as opposed to just like be scattergun and try and go everywhere?
Yeah, it's a few things I look at. who your target audience is and where do those people live. If your target audience is not on TikTok, that means that you do not need to be on TikTok. Mm-hmm. I also look at what their budget and bandwidth look like as well in order to help determine where to start with their marketing. If you've got a small marketing budget that you can allocate on a consistent basis month over month, we'll start there and see how far we can get. And I also tell clients, solopreneurs, always take into consideration what you have time to do, because if you don't have the time, you won't be able to do it consistently, and you won't have as much success as you could have if you were able to put that same dollar amount, energy behind what your marketing strategy may look like.
Yeah, listen, I think that's a fantastic point, Dawn, because about checking whether you have the time to do some of these things, because let's face it, sometimes we start something, we think it's a great idea, but then we get distracted, other things come up, and before you know, maybe you have an Instagram account that you have a load of like posts for a couple of weeks, and then you don't have another one for a month, and because you just got caught up in other things. I think that's a great point about making sure that you have the time to really support whatever initiative you choose. And by the way, just because you mentioned TikTok, I have to mention that Pipeliner CRM is the leading CRM on TikTok, thanks to Martha. So go to TikTok and check out Pipeliner CRM's TikTok channel. Anyway, so Dawn, how do you as a solopreneur, how can you be memorable and stand out?
Connecting with your audience. Absolutely meet them where they are. Let them know that you understand them, that you have the solution to what their pain is. Someone once kind of explained to me, there's a difference between having a problem and a pain. A problem's going to be, oh, like this isn't working well, but it's not really affecting me. Like I'll get to it. But that pain is, okay, I need to do something. I need to take action. I need a remedy. Accurately communicating to your audience that you understand, you care, and you provide a solution is going to work for everyone, no matter what your business is.
Yeah, no, and I think I want to underline that point that you just made, the difference between a problem and a pain, because oftentimes, unfortunately, we tend to see a problem and dive in and try and solve it. But to your point, sometimes it's not a problem we care to solve. I mean, sometimes we get a pain in our foot, and we go, yeah, okay, that's a little bit of an issue, but I can live with it. But clearly, if my leg is broken, I need to go to the doctor. So I think that's a really good point, is to make sure that you are focusing in on solving real pain issues and not focusing on things that people, yeah, it'd be nice if I could fix that, but yeah, I don't really care.
Yeah, and it all ties back to the why behind your business. It's going to connect with that as well.
And in today's in today's world where there's so much noise and everything out there, and there's so much competition and stuff, it's obviously very critical for you to keep your messaging very, very clear and on point. Would you agree?
Yes, I absolutely would agree. Clarity and consistency is going to make a difference when you're in competition with everyone else that's vying for the attention of consumers.
Yeah. And what advice do you give to a solopreneur who goes, listen, I'm really good at what I do in terms of the product or service I offer, but marketing, I'm just not that good at it. It's not really me. I'm not a marketing person, but I have no one else right now, and this is what I've got to do. How do you help people like that?
First, kudos to the solopreneur that recognizes, hey, this is what I'm good at, not the marketing part. Kudos to them. But what I usually say is take a step back, because it's not as overwhelming as it may feel. I always, with my clients, one of the biggest thing that me and my team is committed to is not only just solving and providing a solution for what it was that why they come to us, but also educating them. When you can have that knowledge about what it is that your marketing is doing, it's really going to empower you to make smarter decisions, smarter spends, and really look at your business in a different way. So to that business owner, I would say, hey, let's start small. We can look at whatever it is that your business is doing and figure out the channels that make the most sense for you. And then we'll start to build on top of that once you see your marketing starting to work for you.
Yeah, and obviously then, you know, part of that obviously is testing and analytics and that. And the reality is, yeah, it takes a little bit of time before you have the data to give you some good insights. So what do you, so the idea of starting small, starting focusing on one thing, really testing it or whatever is a really good piece of advice, because as a solopreneur, you can't really afford to make too many missteps, can you?
Correct. No, you can't. That's an easy answer. You can't afford to make those mistakes. It can be disheartening. You can waste money doing it. It can send you off in a direction that you shouldn't be going in. But yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, because there's always, as we said earlier, I mean, there's always this temptation to kind of like look for shortcuts, or to think, oh, maybe if I dump some money into Google AdWords or something like that, I'll be fine. But it needs a lot more thought going into it than that, because you can, as you said, I mean, you can lose a lot of money very fast if you place your bets in the wrong place.
Yes, totally agree. I like that. If you place your bets in the wrong place, it can be really draining, especially if you're just watching that money spend and not seeing any return on it. Absolutely.
So how do you, go ahead.
It often results in a business owner putting money to a channel, not using it strategically or knowing exactly how to get the most out of that channel, and just looking at it as a loss rather than not understanding they weren't playing in that space the best way for their business.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's another great point that you raised there, because then sometimes we're kind of impatient and we say, okay, well, that didn't work. And you go, well, yeah, okay, it's been running for 2 weeks, dude.
Yeah.
So then once you, how do you help them all? How do you help solopreneurs also, I mean, get something set up and kind of have it so it runs a little bit on its own, so they can move on to maybe looking at another channel? Because I mean, that's what you really want at the end of the day, is to be able to, you know, market in as efficient a way as possible.
Yeah, that's taking that bandwidth and their time and energy into consideration as well, and setting them up with some automated systems where they can keep in touch with who their audience is on a regular basis, and some type of content calendar, content strategy where at the top of the month, top of the quarter, you know exactly what it looks like, rather than, okay, I have to get this done for next week. Here it is Thursday, and you're trying to crank all of this out. That's a recipe for disaster. So I take a look at the channels available to them and where they can dedicate their time and effort that makes the most sense for them.
Yeah, and that's a great point you made as well, about a content calendar and actually doing things in advance. Because I mean, let's face it, if you're a business, maybe you have a product or service, you're not waiting until the last second in order to, you know, actually create the product or put the service together that you're going to deliver. You're doing that well in advance. Yeah. And I think this idea as well of looking at your marketing as a continuum, and sort of saying, this is, I have to fill the funnel for marketing just as I have to fill the funnel for sales.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, when I started my career, I was in the retail space. And with retail, you're working on things way in advance. Typically, before Thanksgiving and Black Friday started, you should be wrapping up Christmas at a minimum, the Christmas holidays at a minimum. So for me, I think that since I started in that space, I've always been thinking, okay, it's January now. What are we doing for April in this moment? Always trying to look ahead and stay ahead of what's coming. That allows you to have a lot of flexibility in terms of when you really need to be nimble for the things that are happening more in the moment that you need to react to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the other thing that you touched on there was about, we touched on, was about automation. And I think one of the great advantages that solopreneurs have today, as opposed to once upon a time, is the fact that you have a lot of these tools that you can automate things. So, you can automate your social media, you can automate your content publishing. And, if you're using a system like, like Pipeliner with the automation engine, you can actually automate a lot of the sales and marketing tasks that you would normally have to do manually. Therefore, I think today, more than any other time, Dawn, is a solopreneur is far more scalable than they've ever been.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, and that's why I think that embracing and learning the tools, and I think that's the other thing too, Dawn, isn't it? Is the solopreneur investing a little time in actually learning and understanding the tools that are available to them.
Yeah, there are a ton of great tools out there that solopreneurs can get started with, that where most of them are not going to break the bank. But there are a lot of tools out there that will assist with automation, getting your marketing and branding efforts running smoothly. It's just a matter of finding them and making them work together that's going to suit your business's needs.
Yeah, and as you said, investing a little time in once you find the right tool is actually learning it to use it properly and getting everything scheduled up. So again, it kind of comes back to intentionality and being organized and realizing that your brand needs, your brand has to be a living, breathing thing. Your marketing has to be a living, breathing thing. It has to be able to evolve and adjust as it goes.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's kind of like, if you build a great, you've got this great product, but for solopreneurs that for some reason don't think, let me have a marketing budget, that's really like building something and then not telling anyone that it exists, which it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I have a great product. What is it? I'm not telling you. Sorry. Yeah, no, I know, absolutely. But as we said at the beginning, I mean, we have a lot of sympathy for solopreneurs because it is kind of overwhelming out there, and you are competing with so many other channels and people out there. What do you think, or what are some of the things that you've seen some of your clients do that maybe other people, it may not jump to their mind immediately? Maybe some surprising things that people have done that have been very successful.
That's a great question. And I would say it's a tough one to answer because every industry is going to be different. I've got a real estate client, and what works best for her isn't going to work as good for my client that's in the acupuncture space. So sure. It really varies it depends on the industry. And that's also something that I think helps segue to solopreneurs recognizing that just because something works for your buddy that's in this entrepreneur group may not work for your business. Their industry is different, their budget and resources may be different, and their audience is different. So take those things into consideration when really trying to figure out what works best for you. It's understanding you, your business, and your audience, and then making the decision rather than having someone else tell you what you should be doing based on their experience.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I'm glad you raised that, Dawn. I think that's a great point because, many solopreneurs and entrepreneurs and that, do belong to roundtable groups and all of that and professional groups. And yes, people are always very helpful. But as you say, if I'm in a different industry and I go, oh, Dawn, yeah, you need to, TikTok works fantastic for me, you need to get on TikTok, and you're in a business that completely is unsuited to that. Yeah, you have to be careful in the kind of advice that you take, and then you have to validate whether it's actually appropriate for the space that you're in.
Yes, totally agree.
Yeah, no, that's a great point for people. What do you think are some, and I understand we just said that, different channels work for different people, but are there any newer channels that you have seen people have surprising success with?
I will say that I think I have an answer. I think it's sometimes and I feel like a dinosaur sometimes when I say this. I think that people sometimes underestimate. Let me set the scene first.
Yeah.
Everything's digital right now. Everyone's on social media, they're checking their emails. The life we live, you can tap into all of it and never even leave your home. That being said, I think that people underestimate the value of direct mail in a digital world. There have been studies that said that people, more so millennials, kind of appreciate getting a tangible piece that's not in their inbox, that's flooded with a ton of clutter on social media, where you've got all this other stuff coming in, vying for your attention. So I would say that there's people should always look at, I'm gonna say always, look to see if direct mail will be a fit for whatever their initiative may be. It's another way, it's a guaranteed impression, unless someone just mailbox trash, but they're gonna have to sort through that mail and see it. And if you've got your messaging right, it could result in another opportunity.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great answer. And I do think direct mail still has a place, and definitely, as you said, because everything is so digital and so overwhelming, that I remember a number of years back when I was running a sales consultancy company, we did a direct mail, with a sales training company. We did a direct mailing that said, it was a postcard that basically said, is your sales process as outdated as this marketing? And we got a really good response from it.
There you go.
Yeah. So I mean, I think sometimes, we tend to look at shiny new toys, and the good thing is, if everybody else is looking at shiny new toys, then if you pivot and actually use some more traditional methods, you may actually stand out.
Yeah.
Okay, well, listen, we are coming towards the end of our time today. And what we always like to ask our guests is, okay, Dawn, give us your power tip. How do you set yourself up for success every day?
Every day, I have a plan. I have a plan that is supported by my email system, my calendar. I know exactly what I have on the table for that day. I know what I'm going to try to accomplish, what I have on my to-do list, the time that I have open for the unexpected that may occur. So having a plan but that's also just part of my personality in general. I always have a plan.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great piece of advice. It's always good to go into a day with a plan. So thanks you very much, Dawn, for sharing that tip with everybody. All of Dawn's information will be along with this video, but in the meantime, if you would like to share a little bit more about yourself and what you do with our viewers, that would be great, Dawn.
Sure. So I own D. Foster Marketing Consulting. What my company focuses on is really helping solopreneurs and entrepreneurs putting the pieces together, building their branding strategies, marketing strategies, so that they can really stand out from their competition. I can be found online at dfostermarketing.com, and I'm on social media platforms under dfoster marketing.
That's fantastic. Listen, and thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you for those people who joined us live and for those who are going to view this later on. How is the Twitter chat, Martha?
Was great. You should have a look.
I will. I'll definitely review it afterwards for some nuggets. And thank you for all those people who participated on the Twitter chat. Again, my name is John Golden from SalesPOP. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, Martha in Vienna, Austria. We will see you all again for another sales chats really soon. And I would also encourage you to go to Twitter, #SalesChats, and check out the Twitter feed there. Check out the comments and the insights that were added by our audience. I'll see you all again soon, and thank you